Welcome back, everyone. As FDR once reminded Americans, the ultimate rulers of our democracy are the voters. And tonight, the voters are having their say. The polls have just closed in 15 more states. That's 24 in all now. And the headline is, well, there's still no call in a number of key battleground states, including Florida, Pennsylvania, and Missouri, where polls just closed, as well as Virginia, Ohio, North Carolina, and Indiana. Barack Obama has a 2-to-1 lead over John McCain in the early electoral vote count on election night 2008.
CBS News election night coverage continues. Here again is Katie Couric.
Well, we've told you everything we do not know at this hour, where the races are still undecided, but we can project the winner in a number of states. So let's get started with that. Well, no surprise here. Barack Obama wins his home state of Illinois, and it's 21 electoral votes. And New Jersey, which has been Democratic since 1992, is again tonight. Barack Obama, our projected winner there. No one in our audience will be shocked when we tell you Massachusetts goes to Barack Obama. And the state of Tennessee, so red it denied native son Al Gore the vote in the year 2000 when he ran for president. Barack Obama, CBS News estimates, wins in Maryland. And Connecticut, which is the home state of staunch McCain supporter Joe Lieberman, the wealthiest state in the country, that goes to Barack Obama. Oklahoma, the Sooner state, Republicans have been doing well there for years, and it goes into the McCain column tonight. And Maine, it has 2 moderate Republican senators, but tonight in the presidential race, it goes Democratic. And New Hampshire, Hillary Clinton won the primary here. John McCain's candidacy was revived. He said Mac is back, but tonight that victory is handed to Barack Obama. And Delaware, Joe Biden's home state, of course, goes to the Obama-Biden ticket. And a strong African-American turnout pushes Barack Obama to victory in the nation's capital. Florida, though, as you can see, with its 27 electoral votes, the highest number of votes of any swing state, that is undecided at this point in time. Decided, of course, the 2000 election, famously, controversially. As you can see, 39 electoral votes for John McCain right now, 81 for Barack Obama. And all those white states on our map are either undecided or simply too close to call. So also, we should mention Pennsylvania, undecided at this hour, the all-important state of Pennsylvania. So these key battleground states keep adding up, and we just don't know what's happening there. But Pennsylvania is critical, certainly for John McCain.
It absolutely is. They've put all their resources in terms of trying to take a state away from the Democrats into Pennsylvania, because they believe if they take Pennsylvania out of the Democratic column, their path to win is much easier or less difficult. We have some preliminary data that I can characterize out of Pennsylvania. Unsurprisingly, Barack Obama is running up a huge majorities in Philadelphia, heavily Democratic, heavily African-American. Also in these affluent suburbs around Philadelphia, they used to be Republican 20 years ago. They are now Democratic. He is also, and this may be critical, doing well up here in the Northeast. That's where Scranton, Pennsylvania is. Hillary Clinton hails from there. Her family did. That's where Joe Biden hails from. Coal country. If white working class voters in Pennsylvania are to defect to John McCain, that's where it would happen. One last thing. This is what's called, Katie, the T. Very sloppy T. That whole middle of Pennsylvania is traditionally very Republican. It seems to be Republican this year, but perhaps by not enough margins, the kind of margins the McCain people were hoping. That's what we can say now without going overboard.
All right. We want to mention, in addition to those undecided states of Florida and Pennsylvania, in terms of recent poll closings or the polls that just closed at this hour, Missouri put that in undecided as well. The Show Me State has determined or picked the right presidential candidate in every presidential race since 1900, except for in 1956, but that's undecided at this hour. Meanwhile, Anthony Mason has some interesting exit poll information that's coming out of the Sunshine State. What are voters saying there, Anthony?
Katie, Florida, about 15% of the vote in Florida is Hispanic, and it went for George Bush 4 years ago. I want to take a look at what's happening down here today, because 4 years ago, George Bush got 56% of the Hispanic vote in Florida. But take a look. Obama has turned this around. He's gotten 55% this time, almost exactly flipping that number. Nationally, Obama appears to be getting about 68% of the Hispanic vote. So he's not as strong in Florida as he is nationally, but he's winning there, and that's a very encouraging encouraging sign for him in the Sunshine State. Katie?
All right, Anthony, thank you. In fact, Barack Obama has been doing exceedingly well with Hispanics. That's one of the voter demographics that were targeted by the Obama campaign. And that's because the Republicans, during that whole immigration debate on Capitol Hill, they really turned off a lot of Hispanic voters, Bob.
I think they really did. But, you know, this is very important for Barack Obama because remember back to the primaries, Barack Obama was having a hard time getting Hispanic votes. And we were talking about things like the brown-black divide and would Hispanics vote for an African American? And we're seeing tonight that they are. So I think that's very important. But I think going back to Pennsylvania, Katie, you know, and as Jeff was pointing out in what we can see from these exit polls so far, things appear to be going pretty well for Barack Obama in Pennsylvania. This was the one state that the McCain people thought they might steal away. They thought they had their best chance to get Pennsylvania. If they don't get Pennsylvania, if it does go to Barack Obama, I think it's going to be extremely difficult for John McCain to win when we get to the end of the night. He just almost has to get Pennsylvania.
And this was the one state, it was barely blue in 2004. I think John Kerry won by 2.5% or something like that, Jeff.
Less than 3 points by running up those margins in Philadelphia and the suburbs. And Bob is exactly right. We've kind of been talking about this a lot in the days leading up to election night. You take Pennsylvania and keep it in Barack Obama's column, and what we think we know is going to be happening in some of those later states, at least where Obama has a lead, and you scratch your head and say, all right, where do the 270 electoral votes come from? That's why they made Pennsylvania their target. By the way, there are some Republicans who are saying, you know, if Tom Ridge, the former governor of Pennsylvania, had been the running mate, that might have been a little bit different in Pennsylvania.
Well, you know who said that? Tom Ridge said that. Tom Ridge himself said it might be different. But, you know, Sarah Palin spent so much time in Pennsylvania.
11 stops over the last 3 days.
The governor said he might start sending her a state income tax form. She was there so much.
That's right. And John McCain made 5 stops over 2 days in the state of Pennsylvania. But if I could, Jeff, I just want to get back to Hispanics just for a moment, because it's ironic in a way that John McCain sponsored this comprehensive immigration reform bill along with Ted Kennedy. Right. And it was a pathway to citizenship. A lot of Republicans criticized it a lot, and he kind of backed off on that. And people felt, immigration advocates felt like he really had abandoned the issue, despite the fact that he kind of shaped this legislation.
The primary base of the Republican Party was very strongly for much more restrictive policies. The other thing that I was told by one of the experts when I went out to New Mexico was, yes, that's an important thing, but if you think the economy is a big issue in general, for Hispanics, the economy became an overwhelming issue, which is why New Mexico, look, it's a neighboring state to Arizona. We thought that John McCain would be competitive there. He's a war hero. There's a very strong military tradition in New Mexico. And a lot of Hispanics have culturally conservative values, but the economy in New Mexico pushed a lot of the Hispanics in Barack Obama's direction.
And when you came around down to it, immigration became the dog that didn't bark in this campaign. You heard nothing about it. In none of the debates did it ever come up. It was the one issue that in that last debate that I was hoping to get to that I didn't get to. Neither candidate talked about it. I think neither of them really saw much to gain by talking about it.
And remember, John McCain decided that border security needed to come before a pathway to citizenship for the immigrants in this country. And again, that turned people
went away as far as the candidates were concerned.
And when Barack Obama campaigned in Espanola, which is a small town to the north of Albuquerque and Santa Fe, where Democrats usually don't go, he said, in so many words, vote your numbers. And there was an enormous effort in New Mexico to get Hispanics in the more rural part of the state to go out and vote. We will find out if that works in a couple hours.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a quick look, if we could, at the popular vote, as we can see on our boards tonight. And there you have it, 46% John McCain, 53% Barack Obama. John McCain has picked up 39 electoral votes, 81 for Barack Obama. Still several states, if we take a look, Eric, at the national map, Eric's our director, by the way, if you're wondering if I'm just talking to myself, we can see all those states in white, still undecided or too close to, yes, my special friend, too close to call, including the state we've been talking an awful lot about, the Keystone State, which John McCain was hoping to be the key to not, if necessarily a victory, but certainly his new strategy, hoping to flip the state back to the Republicans. I understand we're joined by Pennsylvania Governor Ed Rendell. Is that right? Hey, Governor, how are you?
Hi, Katie. How are you?
Nice to see you. I know you were
Doing well.
expressing some trepidation in recent days about the Democrats in Pennsylvania, a little concerned about Sarah Palin's ubiquitous presence in your state, not to mention John McCain. How are you feeling tonight?
Well, they were there so much in the last 5 weeks here in Pennsylvania, we were going to charge them state income tax, Katie. But I think that made a difference. I think retail politics still works at a level, certainly ignited or reignited their base. But the turnout in the Philadelphia area, particularly the Philadelphia suburbs, is so overwhelming that I don't think there's any way that Senator McCain can win the state. Just to give you an example, in Haverford, which is Delaware County, suburbs of Philadelphia, the last 3 divisions I got at 7:30 had 85, 88, and 90% turnout already with a half hour left to go. Just an incredible turnout that's going to bury Senator McCain, I think.
I know that, of course, Hillary Clinton won the primary in Pennsylvania, someone who you were supporting for the presidency. I think she beat Barack Obama by something like 10 points, largely by connecting with white working class voters. Have you seen Barack Obama improve in that group of voters in the state of Pennsylvania?
Oh, no question. And it really started, that improvement started when the economy started to melt down. His performance in the debates, the way he handled the economic pressures, what he said, and the calm way he reacted, and the leadership that he exerted, I think really turned a lot of voters around. And I think he's going to hold his own with a lot of those white working class blue-collar voters in Pennsylvania. And that's going to be a difference. But it's an overwhelming vote in the suburbs where, ironically, just a few short elections ago, Republicans routinely carried. I think that Barack Obama will carry the 4 Philadelphia suburbs by over 200,000 votes, carry Philadelphia by well over 400,000 votes, and that's the ball game.
And what I've read, Governor Rendell, is that Governor Palin was actually a drag on the ticket, particularly in those Philadelphia suburbs among moderate Republicans. What can you tell us about that?
I think that's absolutely correct. For every member of the base that she reignited and re-enthused, she lost to Republican moderate, particularly Republican moderate women, ironically, in the suburbs. They just started falling off left and right. And I think that has as much to do with it as Senator Obama's appeal. And Senator Obama has great appeal in the Philadelphia suburbs. He basically broke even in the Philadelphia suburbs with Senator Clinton. So he's got some appeal in his own right. But I think Governor Palin hurt significantly in the Philadelphia suburbs.
And finally, Governor Rendell, any reason to believe Obama will not win the state of Pennsylvania tonight?
Oh, gosh. Everything I know about this state running for 31 years tells me there's no way he can overcome what's going to happen in the Philadelphia region. No way.
And when you were asked if you'd like to be part, if he wins, of an Obama administration, you said, why the heck would I want to work for that guy? I've got the best job in the world. Do you still feel that way?
Well, I've been my own boss for 31 years, Katie, and as you know, the 1 year that I worked for somebody, I was pretty lousy at it. So I don't think Senator Obama should even consider me.
All right. Governor Ed Rendell, thanks so much for making time for us tonight, Governor. Appreciate it so much.
Good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you. Barack Obama is hanging on to a 2-to-1 lead in the early electoral vote count, but a lot of key swing states, we're just waiting and waiting, but they're still swinging in the wind at this hour, including Pennsylvania, Florida, and Virginia. And we'll be right back.
CBS News Election Night coverage is sponsored by ExxonMobil, taking on the world's toughest energy challenges.
On the CBS Wednesday Happy Hour.
I really like you.
Wow.
They say if you date Christine,
Yeah, I'm up here!
you also date her ex.
You should have seen what I was doing to him with my foot under the table.
Oh, God, that was you?
That was you.
But then, what's this about Gary meeting his new girl's friends?
You've already met Vanessa's friends?
Yeah, of course I have.
Okay, fine. What are their names?
What are her friends?
Yeah.
Her friends are, what, Monica, Chandler?
A new Gary unmarried.
Joey, he's dim but likable.
After a new Christine, CBS Happy Hour Wednesday.
And And welcome back to CBS News Election Headquarters here in New York. And we have two important Senate seats to tell you about right now. In North Carolina, Senator Elizabeth Dole has been defeated. This is a turnover, as you can see by those arrows, by Kay Hagan. It's a major upset in the Tar Heel state. Republican icon Senator Elizabeth Dole, the wife of former GOP nominee Bob Dole and a former cabinet secretary for Reagan Bush. Hagan portrayed Dole as out of touch with North Carolina. She said she'd only been in the state 13 times in 2006. That she voted with President Bush 92% of the time and was the 93rd most effective senator in the U.S. Senate. So obviously that was a key combination. We have another call as well in the Senate. We can tell you that former Governor Jeanne Shaheen, now this is a rematch, by the way, from 2002, but she is the projected winner over Senator John Sununu, who came in 2002, but payback is tough for Senator Sununu tonight. He is the son of former Governor John Sununu, who was also President Bush Sr.'s chief of staff. So two very significant Democratic wins, Democratic turnovers in the U.S. Senate, building their way toward that filibuster-proof 60-seat majority. Right, Byron?
That's right, Katie. We're talking about history tonight. With Elizabeth Dole losing, come January, this will be the first time in 50 years there's not been a Dole or a Bush in elected office in this country. That's huge. Remember, we're talking about Jesse Helms' old seat in North Carolina, and this is an indication about the trouble that the Republicans may face across the country. One of the things that may have done in Elizabeth Dole, we talked about it, was a TV ad. She ran an ad near the end of the campaign where she attacked her opponent, not about the economy, not about the war in Iraq, but about who she hangs out with, making the suggestion that she hangs out with people who are anti-God. Take a look.
In God we trust. You're going to whip that off the money?
Yeah, we would.
Godless Americans and Kay Hagan. She hid from cameras, took godless money. What did Hagan promise in return?
There is no God.
Katie, there was a backlash to that ad all across North Carolina.
We should mention there is no God. That wasn't Kay Hagan speaking, by the way.
That's right. I mean, she came out the very next day with a hard TV ad. She filed a lawsuit against Senator Dole. She came with a TV ad making the point that she's a Sunday school teacher, that she's a Presbyterian. And last time I checked, Presbyterians love Jesus as much as any other Christian. And again, talking to friends in Eastern North Carolina, that was a problem. So, Katie, if we can look at our filibuster scorecard and why this moment is so important for the Democrats. So at this point, the Democrats have now picked up 3 seats. They're hoping to gain 9 tonight. They've picked up 3 in Virginia, North Carolina, and New Hampshire. As you said, Katie, New Hampshire was a rematch from 2002. Everything that worked for John Sununu in 2002 worked against him in 2008.
All right, Byron Pitts. Thanks, Byron. We're going to look at a lot of undecided states. Why are there so many white states on our national map? We'll take a look at that in a moment.
CBS Thursday. He handles the FBI's most sensitive cases.
What's going on?
Smallpox. It's highly infectious and efficiently lethal.
She handles anyone who gets in his way.
When in doubt, always use the scientific method. Heads or tails.
But this time,
Rachel, don't touch him!
her life is in his hands.
Rachel.
New 11th hour, CBS Thursday after CSI.
And welcome back, everyone, on this very exciting election night 2008. But we haven't been able to tell you a lot of projections so far. In fact, if you look at my touchscreen map here on my desk, we have John McCain with 39 electoral votes, Barack Obama with 81. The magic number, we should repeat, is 270 needed to clinch the presidency. But as you can see on this map, there are a number of undecided states. In Indiana's case, it's too close to call. Let's take a look. We have Indiana, too close to call. Ohio, the Buckeye state, undecided at this hour. North Carolina, which is increasingly competitive this year, the Old Dominion, undecided at this point. And Pennsylvania, where John McCain has pinned his hopes on this state to help him on his path to victory. That is undecided. We just heard Governor Ed Rendell of Pennsylvania express a lot of confidence. Meanwhile, let's go to our Director of Surveys, Kathy Frankovic, because Kathy, I think a lot of people might be wondering when we project winners in certain states and why so many are undecided at this hour. In the case of Indiana, Kathy, too close to call.
Yes, and we've said that Indiana is, in fact, a very close state. What we do is we use exit poll information, but, you know, an exit poll is only a survey, so we often wait for actual sample precincts to come to us and see if the exit poll information is validated, or if perhaps there may be some operational problem at the polling place. Pennsylvania has no votes counted, no actual votes counted, but we are starting to get overlays from sample precincts, and we're working on it. We're also working on Ohio, and we're working on North Carolina very intently.
And you can't really rely on exit polling because that's sometimes misleading, right, Kathy?
Well, it could be. It depends on how good the interviewers are and whether there are problems at the polling places. So we look at votes, too.
All right, Kathy Frankovic, you're a very busy woman tonight. Thanks so much. It's a slow and careful counting of the votes, as Kathy just mentioned, on this historic election night. We're still waiting to see which way some key states will swing, including Ohio, Florida, Pennsylvania, and Indiana. Polls close in Arkansas in just a few minutes. You're watching Election Night here on CBS.
Now from CBS 4 News, this is a Campaign 2008 update.
Good evening, I'm Antonio Moore.
And I'm Shannon Horry. Welcome to this Campaign 08 coverage. You'll notice we do have election results for you at the bottom of the screen.
And right now we want to take a look at the most important races that are going on in Florida and across the country.
And here's a look at how the presidential race is shaping up statewide. As you can see, with 19% of the precincts now reporting, Barack Obama is leading John McCain 54% to 45%.
Another key race is for Congressional District 21.
And this is a race between Lincoln Diaz-Balart and Raul Martinez, and it's actually been called the nastiest race in America.
And there you can see how it's shaping up right now. Martinez is trailing Diaz-Balart by 10 percentage points. Diaz-Balart ahead with 55% of the vote, but only less than 1% of the precincts reporting.
And CBS 4's David Sutta is with Diaz-Balart's camp, but we're going to begin with CBS 4's Gary Nelson, who is with Martinez's camp right now. Gary?
Well, the night certainly is young here in Hialeah Gardens, where the Raul Martinez faithful are gathering, a very small crowd at this point. You can bet this place will be packed before the night is over. Raul Martinez, having spent about $3 million on this campaign of his, challenging the entrenched incumbent Republican Lincoln Diaz-Balart, who has never had a serious challenger before. The latest polls showing this race to be pretty much neck and neck going into Election Day. Diaz-Balart outspent the Martinez campaign by nearly $1.5 million, according to Martinez's folks. A lot of attack ads along the way, as everyone knows by now. And after all of that acrimony and vitriol, we will see here, perhaps in the next hour or so, how it all shakes out, what the voters buy. For now, we're live in Hialeah Gardens with the Martinez campaign. Gary Nelson, CBS 4.
All right, thank you, Gary. And we move now to Lincoln Diaz-Balart's camp.
And that is where we find CBS 4's David Sutta. He joins us now live, and Lincoln Diaz-Balart has held this office for a long time.
Yes, he has. This would be his 9th consecutive term if he gets it tonight. As you can see, the patrons, everyone very excited, just showing up, getting ready. We're expecting Lincoln Diaz-Balart to take that stage in the near future to talk about how this all shapes up. Right now, the early voting, the absentee ballots, and 40% of the vote says that he is going to win this. If that number holds true, 58% of the vote compared to Raul Martinez is 41%. You can see the band taking the stage, a lot of media attention being paid to all of this. Everyone truly excited about this. This has been a very negative campaign, perhaps the nastiest in America. And a lot of people have been watching this closely because the House seats are very important, especially with a new president possibly taking it over on a Democratic side. So they are going to be watching this closely, but a lot of people excited, hoping for a great night, a 9th consecutive turn for Lincoln Diaz-Balart if it turns his way. We're live at the Miami Mart. David Sutta, CBS 4 News.
Thanks, David. And we're now joined by CBS CBS 4's commentator Jim DeFede.
And Jim, looking at these early results, a lot of them include the absentee ballots and the early votes.
So this is actually a good chunk of the electorate has already voted, for about 40%. So what David's right in his assessment. This looks really good for Lincoln at this point. It's interesting. His brother's race, Mario Diaz-Balart, along with Joe Garcia, that race is a lot tighter. Okay. So Lincoln seems to be in decent shape. Mario, I think, is going to be sweating for a while longer.
And Ross Layton comfortably ahead.
Ross Layton ahead as well, yeah. But Annette Taddeo doing better than some people expected.
And this was such an incredibly nasty race. How do you think that played into voters?
I think what Raul's problem is that he wasn't able to be sold well to Anglo voters outside of the Hialeah area. I think Lincoln did a very effective job of scaring Anglo voters about what a Raul in Congress would mean. And so as a result, it sort of worked against him.
And how about Florida in the presidential election?
It's Obama seems to be ahead right now, but we got to sort of look to where those votes are coming.
All right. Jim DeFede, thank you so much. And that is going to do it for now. We'll be back in 25 minutes with another local update.
CBS News coverage of Campaign 08 election continues in just a moment, and we're told that they may call Pennsylvania for Barack Obama. And as always, we're on at CBS4.com, where you can find all local election results as they come in. We'll see you in 25 minutes.
And welcome back this election night. The headline of the moment. CBS News now projects Barack Obama will win the battleground state of Pennsylvania. That is a major blow to John McCain, who desperately needed a win there. And just moments ago, polls closed in Arkansas. John McCain, we estimate, will win there on this election night, 2008.
CBS News election night coverage continues. Here again is Katie Couric.
And welcome back, everyone. As we just mentioned, a key victory for Barack Obama in the Keystone State of Pennsylvania. Let's go to Chip Reed. Of course, this is a big disappointment for John McCain. Chip, we've been talking all night about the fact that John McCain and Sarah Palin spent so much time in Pennsylvania, spent a lot of money in that state as well. This has to be a big disappointment.
Absolutely. They've made clear all along that if they lose Pennsylvania, it is very difficult to put together a path to victory here, a way for them to get the 270 electoral votes. I have yet to talk to any of them, but I'm sure they would say we still think there's a way to get there, but it's really hard to envision. They have spent so much time there. I know all of us in the press corps practically knew the small towns around the Philadelphia area, not in Philly. They didn't spend much time there, but the small towns, 15, 20, 30, 40 miles from Philadelphia, they spent a tremendous amount of time there. And Moon Township, north of Pittsburgh, these areas outside in kind of the exurbs of Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, and also in the Harrisburg area, Lancaster also. A lot of the small towns, they just went there over and over and over. McCain a lot, and Palin practically lived there. So really, they had put a lot of eggs in that Pennsylvania basket, and it didn't work, Katie. So it's got to be a tremendous disappointment.
And they were working very hard to sort of rekindle their campaign with white working class voters, and they were drawing some pretty big crowds there.
Oh, they were. They were getting some big crowds and some very enthusiastic crowds. And one thing they really went at very scientifically in Pennsylvania was to try to identify exactly where the white working class Democrats are who voted for Hillary Clinton, and then to target them, to go to those areas and really aggressively pursue them, both in advertising and with door knocks and telephone calls and flyers and with visits from John McCain and Sarah Palin. And it appeared that they did succeed to some degree, but obviously not enough.
Yeah, let's see what Chip Reed, Chip, thank you so much. Let's take a look at what some of the exit polls coming out of Pennsylvania are saying. Anthony, you have some information for us on that?
Yeah, Katie, we're going to take a look at the coalition that Barack Obama has put together to win Pennsylvania. And it's very interesting because it's essentially a group of men, white women, independents, and black voters. And what's particularly significant here is while John Kerry won Pennsylvania narrowly 4 years ago, he lost men and he lost white women. In fact, he only got 45% of white women 4 years ago. But look here, Barack Obama has 58% of them. Men, 55%. He's taken 59% of independents and 95% of black voters. That's an improvement on John Kerry's 84% 4 years ago. Chip Reed was referring to the Hillary Clinton voters that John McCain went after. Let's see what happened to them. In fact, we have the numbers here. This with a lot of working class voters here that looked like they could be ripe for the picking. But Barack Obama has taken 81% of Hillary Clinton supporters in Pennsylvania. What's more, he's done even better among female Hillary Clinton supporters, taking 83% of them. So McCain's inroads, very modest. And this is the coalition that Obama's put together and the reason he's won Pennsylvania. Katie?
All right, Anthony Mason, thanks. And apparently, Bob and Jeff, he did very well. Barack Obama did in northeastern Pennsylvania and western Pennsylvania, those towns like Scranton and those places where a lot of working class, white working class voters reside. So the John McCain strategy was clearly not successful there.
In this case, the preliminary exit poll data that we presented a few minutes ago was dead on, because this is what Anthony's talking about. Those white working class voters in and around Scranton, Pennsylvania, went for Obama. No surprise that he did great in Philadelphia. But these affluent suburbs, Governor Rendell told you that a few minutes ago, it's a pretty clear-cut victory. And as we've been talking about, when you look at the national map now, with Pennsylvania in Obama's pocket, if he were to win Colorado and New Mexico and hold the rest of the carry states, if Barack Obama just does only that, if he wins none of the battleground states you talked about, that's enough to win.
So it's a very challenging road for John McCain.
Oh, it's going to be very difficult from here on in. But let's just go back to Pennsylvania a little bit here. I mean, the fact that he got those white working class voters, that was always the question. Could he get those voters that were voting for Hillary Clinton? And he showed he did. And, you know, we've talked a lot about how much effort that John McCain put into Pennsylvania. Well, let me tell you something. Barack Obama put a lot of effort in there. I think one of the most astounding statistics that I have heard of over the weekend, Obama's volunteers knocked on 1.8 million doors in Pennsylvania. I mean, I've never heard of a number like that. And they also overwhelmed them once again with television ads. McCain put about $20 million worth of television ads in there, but I think Obama spent about $30-something million worth of ads. They really pulled all the stops there. They knew that McCain was going after Pennsylvania, and boy, they made sure that he didn't get it.
Now, before we go to Cynthia Bowers, who's with a huge crowd of people in Grant Park in Chicago, we should mention that you were there during a very different time back in 1968.
You know, we're talking about the different historical milestones that we're seeing tonight. This is Grant Park. This is where those awful riots took place during the 1968 convention, Katie. It was my first political convention. I've never seen another one quite like it. The rioting went on for a week there. And now we're told that before this is over tonight, there may be as many as 1 million people gathered in Grant Park to hear Barack Obama speak.
It was also a time when white working class Democrats began to defect, even before Reagan, to Richard Nixon. The racial tensions between white working class Democrats, not only in the South, but in the Northeast. Tonight, the Democratic Party looks very different, and so does Grant Park.
And in fact, let's go to Cynthia Bowers, who's in the middle of it all. Cynthia?
Katie, this crowd is crazy excited, and I say that because every time a state goes for Obama, they go crazy. And a note to Bob, this city has been trying very hard to set a new image for Grant Park, and they're determined that this be the night. As you said, there are 70,000 inside where I'm standing, maybe 1 million outside. The mayor's invited the whole city, so you never know. But you know those cute little girls, Sasha and Malia? I've got 2 cuter kids, maybe, that are Obama fans. This is Joshua Pendleton. He's 5 months old, and his mom, Franchetta. And then Sedgwick Willis and his little boy, Sedgwick Willis Jr., 4 and 5 months old. They came here. Why did you want your son to be here tonight?
So that he can make history.
And what did you do to get invited to this shindig?
I volunteered with Citizens for the Better West Side.
And why did you think this was so important, Franchetta?
Because this is the first African-American president.
And is this life-changing for you and your son, do you think?
Yes.
And I just have to introduce the beautiful grandmother of this little boy here, because her name is Paula Jones, and the first thing she said to me is, "Not that one." Is this a big night for you, Paula?
This is a historic night, and it's a lovely night, and I just got to say, to have this ticket is the most exciting thing I've done all this year, so big up to Big Obama. Love Obama.
Okay, and I think that's the feeling of everybody here. Every time they hear a state go for Obama, as I said, they go crazy. They're very excited. They're looking forward to, in a park named for a president, Ulysses Grant, hopefully seeing a president-elect later tonight, Katie.
All right, Cynthia Bowers, thank you so much. And of course, we should should mention that the polls are still open in many states. So if you have not had a chance to vote, please do so. And then when you're done, come back home and watch us right here on CBS. We're going to want to go to Bill Whitaker now. He's at Ohio State University with Senator John Glenn. Hey, Bill.
Hello, Katie. I have with me here Senator John Glenn, former senator of Ohio, the first American to orbit the globe. Now, Senator, you're a man who knows about firsts. What do you think about this evening of potential firsts?
Well, I think it's great. You know, we're seeing, we all decry that after every election we talk about how nobody is interested and where our vote is going below 50%. So all at once this time around, there's so much interest, and particularly among the young people. Right here at the Ohio State University, for instance, we have all these students in there on the election night thing, whether they're Democrat, Republican, or whatever they are. I think this speaks very well for the future. One of the things we try and provide with the school here is we try and inspire citizenship and develop leadership. And then a lot of these kids are going to be the leaders of the future here. We're just proud to have them out and participating tonight.
Well, Senator, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Senator John Glenn at the John Glenn School of Public Affairs at Ohio State University here in Columbus. Back to you, Katie.
All right, Bill Whitaker, thank you so much. And please give Senator Glenn my best. We want to announce another projection. CBS News now projects the state of Alabama, the solidly red state, has gone solidly for John McCain tonight, so he can add that to his column. He now has amassed 54 electoral votes to Barack Obama's 102. We've talked a lot about the Obama organization, which is really unparalleled in the history of American politics. And Dee Dee Myers, have you seen anything quite like the amount of money raised and the organization that the Obama campaign exhibited during the entire course of this campaign?
No, Katie, there's never been anything quite like it. When all is said and done, he will have raised more than $650 million, most of it in small donations, averaging about $86, and he will have built an enormous field organization. And not only did he build this unprecedented organization, he did it using the internet. I think he's rewritten the book on how to run a presidential campaign. It will be the standard model for 4 years from now. Everybody will be studying that campaign to see how they did it. In part, it was driven by enormous enthusiasm for his candidacy. He appealed to people's hope and desire for change. And part of it was driven just by good nuts and bolts, day-to-day management of that campaign. Big hats off to the people who ran it, David Axelrod, Plouffe, and others. I think, again, that they've made history tonight.
All right, Dee Dee Myers, thanks. Let's take another quick look and get you up to speed on the national map, because things are happening quickly and in some cases very slowly. Let's take a look. As you can see, the states in blue have gone to Senator Obama. He currently has 102 electoral votes. The states in red, most recently Alabama, have gone to Senator John McCain. And all those states are undecided. The states in white, including the state of Florida, the state of Georgia, which John McCain was expected to win handily. That may be much more competitive than we originally anticipated, as well as North Carolina, Virginia, Ohio, Indiana, and the bellwether state of Missouri. And we'll be back with much more on this election night 2008 right after this.
Tomorrow, a lot happens early. The first results, the first reaction, and your first look at America's future. The Early Show, tomorrow.
CBS Wednesday. This profiler's dream. There's a basement. Is just the beginning of his nightmare.
Rick, wake up. What the hell is scaring you? My dream. I'm having different versions of it since I was a little kid.
Why aren't you helping?
What's going on? I've been here before.
No Criminal Minds, CBS Wednesday.
Welcome back to CBS News election headquarters here in New York City. You know, when John McCain tapped Governor Sarah Palin of Alaska, many people were very surprised at his choice. She was relatively unknown, but an extremely popular governor with an 80% approval rating in the state of Alaska. Anthony Mason has some exit polling information on the Palin effect and how it affected the way voters made their choice today. Anthony?
Yeah, Katie, it looks like in a couple of key categories, it did cost John McCain some votes. We want to look first at moderate Republicans. And 46% of moderate Republicans we talked to on our exit poll said the choice of Sarah Palin was an important factor in their vote today. So how did they vote? Well, 21% actually went for Barack Obama. That may not seem like a big number, but it's actually double the national percentage of Republicans who voted for Obama. So clearly here, John McCain lost some votes because of the Sarah Palin choice, but it's more pronounced when you go to independents. 42% of independents told us that the Palin was an important factor in their vote. Where did they go? They went very strongly for Barack Obama, 58 to 42%. So there's clear evidence here, Katie, that the governor of Alaska ended up costing John McCain some votes today.
All right, Dan Bartlett, I know you have some views on Sarah Palin and the Palin effect. Was it a mistake in your mind? I know that it energized the base of the party a lot, but it did, as we just saw, turn off a lot of voters as well.
Right, Katie. I think when this was first announced, I said this was either going to be an enormous success or an enormous failure. And I think the McCain campaign knew themselves that it was a risky choice, that they had to take a chance, that if they ran a typical Republican campaign and therefore picked a typical candidate as vice president, that wouldn't shake things up enough to re-scramble the race and to his advantage. And I think what you've seen is that, and maybe in some of these traditional states she's been where she's got strong support within the Republican Party, that's been fine. But if you go to a Pennsylvania or somewhere, a true battleground state, somewhere where you're trying to wrestle away from the Democrats, a blue state, maybe that's where the problems lie, because it's not only what she says and what she does, but it's also a presidential judgment. The American people are looking at the president, the potential presidential candidate, making this big presidential decision, and some may have come to the conclusion that was more based on politics and not on governance.
So it might have been sort of one step forward for womankind, but it was sort of a couple of steps backwards, because it brought John McCain's age and health front and center once again, Dan, didn't it?
Well, some would make that argument, and I think to Palin's credit, though, or at least and put this in context, to ask anybody who's not been on the national stage and preparing for this job in a way in which you're out there conversing on all the issues is asking awful a lot. To go from 0 to 60 in one news cycle almost is an enormous challenge for anybody, much less somebody who, like I said, who is not in the slipstream of national media coverage and dealing with the to's and fro's of a presidential campaign. So it was a risky choice, and we'll have to see how this data plays out in some of these key states to see if it was too risky of a choice.
And in many ways, he sort of lost the experience card, too, because Governor Palin had been governor of Alaska for only 18 months when she was tapped. And before that, the mayor of Wasilla, with population something like 6,000.
Well, there were a lot of people who were supporters of John McCain who were concerned that he was just getting traction over the summer on that very issue, the experience gap issue, and that by putting her on the ticket, it undermined that argument and that message. Again, these type of things will be debated in the days to come.
We should mention, Dan, thanks very much. McCain aide is recently quoted as saying, quote, "At this point, we need a miracle."
Well, I think at this point they do need a miracle. If I can just add on a little bit to what Dan Bartlett was talking about, I think these surveys are going to show that she was indeed a drag on this ticket. I still think it was the economy that's going to make the difference in this campaign. But Katie, you know, when she was picked, it seemed like a popular choice. She made a very good speech at the convention. It was a real big chance. But those interviews that you did with her, I mean, she made a terrible impression in those interviews. And I think that's when the bloom came off this rose right there. I mean, and I would say that even if you were not sitting here.
Well, thank you very much. Meanwhile, you know, the vice president's choice doesn't usually matter. Do you think in this case it did?
Yes. She was Norma Ray for about 2 weeks, and then she was somebody else.
All right. And we'll be back with much more election coverage right after this. And welcome back to CBS News Election Headquarters. We're going to head to Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia, where Russ Mitchell has a special guest in a moment. But first, we want to catch you up with the national map so you know what's going on right now in terms of the presidential election. As you can see, John McCain has 54 electoral votes. Barack Obama has 102. But states that are still undecided, in the case of Indiana, it's too close to call. But hanging out there, twisting in the wind at this point, Ohio, Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Mississippi, and the state of Missouri, a key bellwether state. Let's now go to Atlanta, Georgia, and Russ Mitchell. Russ?
Hi, Katie. I'm sorry I can barely hear you. It turned into a rollicking election night watch party here at Ebenezer Baptist Church. More than 1,000 people are here right now. The night has been filled with songs, as you hear right now, sermons and cheers every time good news is announced for Barack Obama. Joining me right now is one of the pioneers of the civil rights movement, Ambassador Andrew Young. Ambassador Young, thank you so much for joining us. When Pennsylvania was called for Barack Obama a few moments ago, I saw tears in your eyes. What does this night mean for you?
God is still on the throne. It's a victory of faith over fear, grace over greed, and vision over violence. And I thank Barack Obama and his entire team for leading our country in that direction.
Looking back over the years, did you ever think that this day would come, that you would ever see it in your lifetime?
I think so, but I never thought of it in terms of a president. I thought America could really live up to the vision of Thomas Jefferson and John Adams and James Madison. You know, Barack Obama is very much in that same age group, that same intellectual category.
Ambassador Andrew Young, thank you so much. Really do appreciate it. Katie, more from Ebenezer in just a bit. Now back to you.
All right, Russ, thanks so much, and we'll be back right after this.
Now from CBS 4 News, this is a Campaign 2008 update.
Hello again, I'm Antonio Mora.
And I'm Shannon Horry. Just a reminder, we have the latest election results for you at the bottom of your screen.
And the polls closed in Florida nearly 2 hours ago, so we're now getting in more substantial results.
CBS 4 political reporter Michael Williams is in our election center with some of the returns important to us here in South Florida. Michael?
Thank you, Florida. Battleground state as always. Let's look at the presidential race at the state level. If we can throw it up on the monitor here. Looking statewide right now with 41% of the precincts reporting Barack Obama with a 3 percentage point advantage over John McCain. This has been a neck-and-neck race all along. We'd like to know more about where those votes are coming from to see if this advantage for Barack Obama will hold up or not in this critical state that has long gone Republican. Now, also a couple of other key issues. Amendment 2, the so-called Marriage Protection Amendment. Right now, 37%, more than a third of the statewide precincts, and those voting yes, 62 to 38%. This would effectively ban gay marriage and civil unions, and people worry it would also effectively dismantle domestic partnership agreements. The Broward Sheriff's race, Al Lamberti against Scott Israel, about 13% of the precincts in. Scott Israel, the Democrat, in a heavily Democratic county, up by 12 percentage points, but again, only 13% of the precincts in as he goes up against Al Lamberti, who succeeded Ken Jenney, ousted from office, as you know. More on all this later. Back to you.
Michael, thank you. It has been a very busy night at election headquarters in Miami-Dade and Broward.
They are counting the ballots as we speak. Let's start in Lauderhill. CBS 4's Al Sunshine is there. Al, what's going on there in Broward?
Antonio, here's the bottom line. The headline at this hour: voting has been completed in Broward County. The polls are closed. There are no more lines. And to let you know how well it went so far this year, 95% of Broward's precincts were done with their voting within the first hour. Now, at this point, we know that those ballots are in the process of being brought here for the final tabulation. But under the latest new plans that they're doing, the high-tech voting here, they are tabulating the results at the precincts, modeming them in to election headquarters here in Lauderhill, and then those ballots are going to be brought back here for an earlier vote. And I can tell you, if you look over here, you can see that the screen has been rolling some of the early results based basically on the absentee and the early voting, and people here are taking down in minute detail everything they could have. But so far, everything here in Broward County looks like it's going a lot better than everybody had hoped. Reporting live in Lauderhill, I'm Al Sunshine, CBS 4 News.
That's good news, Al. Thank you. And from Al, we move south to Miami-Dade election headquarters.
And that is where CBS 4's Michelle Gillen joins us now with more. How are things going there?
Well, unlike Broward County, only a handful of polls have actually closed here in Miami-Dade, so it's still going to be a much longer night here. But at those polls, supervisors are taking those hard drives, driving them to 20 different sites where they will upload them. And so if you look behind me, years past, you might recall there was such hubbub back there and, manually seeing what was going on of the inputting of the votes. Now they are being called in through secure phone lines. So I'm told that most will see back there are lots of folks standing there looking at computer screens, but that is democracy at work. Those are your votes being called in, and then the paper ballots will be brought here later this evening, and we'll be here for that for you. Reporting live, Michelle Gillen, back to you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I know you voted today. You only had to wait about 30 minutes in line.
Yeah, it wasn't bad at all.
Early voting, and I should have done what you did because of those who voted early, you ended
Seems
up
like
having
it was
to wait.
better today than other days. And of course, we've got a lot of tight elections, not only the presidential election here in Florida, but a lot of the congressional elections very close. So we'll keep you updated.
And we'll be back in 25 minutes with another update for you.
CBS News coverage of Campaign 08 election night continues right now. And as always, we're on at CBS4.com. See you in 25 minutes.